everybody, I'm Ben Hoffman and welcome back to Hoffman Reproductions. Thank you for tuning in with us again today. This time around we are talking about the 1842 Springfield smoothbore musket. Good battle-hardy weapon. Was made by both the Springfield Armory and the Harper's Ferry Armory. Approximately 275,000 of these were produced by the federal government. They ended up in the hands of the Confederates as well because they were a pre-war gun, so both sides. This musket saw a lot of use, especially the first couple years of the war, and then again even later on in the time period, well up into the mid-1860s. This musket still found use with many regiments, including a lot of Union regiments preferred this gun even though the rifled musket was the premier arm of the time. This musket has the distinction of several firsts and lasts. It was one of the first full-size muskets to utilize the percussion cap system. Not the very first one, but the first full-size musket. And it was also the last musket adopted by the federal government that utilized a smoothbore, this particular model. It had a walnut stock on it, iron hardware, 42-inch barrel, 69 caliber smoothbore, making it a versatile weapon. You could fire solid shot, buck and ball, or a combination of those, and was a very good, serviceable, battle-hardy weapon. Now, as far as this specific gun, without getting into too long of a story, this particular model, the 1842 smoothbore, has sort of been on my bucket list. I've always wanted one. They're a little hard to find right now and at a price that was a little out of my budget, but while surfing around the internet I found one. So I found this one listed on the Gun International website and had a list price of $850. Said it was in good condition, Italian reproduction, came with the bayonet. And not being familiar with that particular website, I hit buy now and I figured it would take me through a payment process and I could calculate shipping and whatnot. Well, it said automatically, you have notified seller you wish to buy. I thought, oh great, I'm going to have to tell this person, sorry, that was an accident, and blah blah blah. But after a little encouragement from my beloved wife, she said, hey, that's one you've always wanted. I had a little money set aside to get it, and finalized it with the individual, and here come to find out he was located not too far away from us, so I was able to meet him and avoid a heavy shipping fee for this, but that's how I acquired it. Now when I went to pick it up, a few things I was struck by. Several of the things to make this gun a little more historically correct had already been done. Now I was planning on doing that anyway, but all the modern markings had already been taken off of it. The inspector's marks and ordnance stamps were already put on it, and on a lot of the reproductions the front sight is part of the forward barrel band and is steel, and historically that should be brass, and this one had been changed out. So what I think this gun had going on, it was a very early defarbing had been done on it. I think this gun was fairly old in the production line for Uverdi. Really high quality piece of wood. I couldn't tell that it was European walnut. It looked so closely to American walnut. But as I said, some of the work had been done. One thing I didn't feel like they had done was removed all the extra wood that this gun would not have had. So I took the whole gun apart, stripped it down, thinned probably 3/8 of an inch of wood off of the wrist alone, and then top to bottom took a lot of wood off of it, refinished it to this dark color. Yes, brand new, it probably would have been lighter in color, but here recently my family and I, we took a trip to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I had an opportunity to examine a whole rack of this originals of this particular model, and they had every shade of the rainbow on the originals. There were light tannish colors, there were deep red colors, sort of ambers, and then there was this dark color, and this is the one that I like, so I went with a nice dark color, and I gently aged all the metal to give it just a kiss of a look of one that had been campaigned with. So as I said, even though
the rifled musket was the prevalent weapon in the American Civil War, many units still preferred these smoothbores, even on the more modern Union side. Having recently taken a trip to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania with my family, I was surprised to find, after reading a book on the subject, that as many as 26 Union regiments at Gettysburg in 1863 were still armed with this musket, and many of them preferred it. So whilst there, I sought out some of these regiments, so I have a little bit of footage from that I'm going to share with you now. So we're going to take a quick trip to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I hope you enjoy that.
Alright everybody, hello and welcome to a special segment of Hoffman Reproductions today, coming to you from historic and beautiful Gettysburg, Pennsylvania on the battlefield. Our family frequents this area. We always enjoy it. Typically I'm interested in colonial history, but we hang that up for a few days and enjoy Civil War history when here. Obviously, we're on one of the most famous battlefields of the American Civil War, and if you ever get a chance to come here, I would highly recommend it. It is indeed a piece of hallowed ground where an absolutely massive battle was fought, and is an important piece of American history to remember and contemplate. I am standing close to what is known as the high water mark of the Confederacy. That is the clumps of trees where the Confederate cannonading that took place preceding Pickett's charge was all focused roughly there. We're on Cemetery Ridge, Union position, and far out there in the distance on that tree line, in both directions for several miles, that's where the cannonading came from that preceded what would become known as Pickett's charge. And across this field from that monument way down there in the tree line is the reference point all the way up to here is the path the Confederates took. Now it's stretched both directions, spread out more than a mile, but this was the direction that they were headed, and that clumps of trees up there is as high in as the Confederate attack penetrated the Union lines before being driven back with massive casualties. So I'm gonna not try and do a battlefield tour, but show you some of the regimental markings that have to do with our smoothbore musket that we're talking about this time around. So I hope you enjoy the video, and we're gonna move on. Okay, so we are farther down the line on the Union line at Cemetery Ridge now. This is the regimental marker of the 90th Pennsylvania, and they have two regimental markers. They actually have one out near Oak Hill on the first day's fighting position. They were heavily engaged out there, and then were kind of shuffled around the battlefield. They were in reserve a lot because they'd already been pretty badly beat up in the first day's battle, but here on this line they had the distinction of deploying forward as skirmishers and coming across the slain body of General Barksdale of Mississippi, if you're familiar with the battle in Civil War history. But this regimental marker and the one that's out near the first day's battle, I'll show it later, this regiment, the 90th Pennsylvania, also preferred the 1842 smoothbore, so much so that they incorporated it into their monument. There we see a cluster of buck and ball ammunition. Pretty neat. Alright, moving on. Alright, so we are out here where some of the first day's action took place on the Union line near Oak Ridge, which stretched down in that direction and down in that direction. And we have stopped at the regimental marker of the 11th Pennsylvania Reserves. Now, most people that come to this regimental marker, they are dog or pet fans, because the 11th Pennsylvania had a little mascot, a little bull terrier type dog named Molly that was here at the battle with them, and a lot of people, for the reasons stated, stop and visit Molly. Now, I've seen this regimental marker many times over the years, and there is a very stalwart Union soldier at the crest of it, all covered with the accoutrements that the 11th Pennsylvania carried. But it wasn't until later years that I noticed, and you probably can't tell in this light, but if you look, he is not carrying a Springfield or Enfield rifled musket. He is indeed carrying our 1842 Springfield smoothbore musket. And indeed, that was the weapon this regiment preferred. They fought with them here. They unloosed quite a few casualties upon the Confederates out here in this field, and they also took quite a few casualties. They fought bravely here and eventually had to give ground along with the rest of the Union Army position here and fell back through town. But they carried the 42 Springfield, and they actually carried it till, I believe, near the end of the war when they mustered out. They carried it all through service and used it to great effect. Cool stuff. Alright, and yet another regiment that favored the 69 caliber smoothbore musket here at Gettysburg. As you can see there, this is the regimental marker of the 12th New Jersey Regiment. They were positioned here on Cemetery Ridge on the Union line, right in the thick of it, helping to repulse on the third day what would become known as Pickett's Charge. They also, and I don't know if you can see it here, probably not, but there's a sort of a raised casting, there it is, of what was called the Bliss Barn, and it sat some distance out here in this field during the battle, and the Confederates had taken up position in it and were using it as a sharpshooter's bastion. And twice the 12th New Jersey made charges out to that barn, killing many of the defenders and taking casualties themselves. Finally, they set it on fire after attacking it and driving out the sharpshooters twice. But this regiment thought so much of the 69 caliber smoothbore musket and its load that the top of their regiment highlights the bucket ball load, and it also states bucket ball caliber 69. So they thought so much of it, they wanted to make it part of their regimental marker. Now it's pretty interesting that you can study and read about what they did here on this position, and after fighting some on the second day, they collected a number of their wounded comrades' smoothbore muskets, and indeed out here in the fields they collected numerous Confederate smoothbore muskets, brought them up here to their line, and each man had between 2 and 5 of them loaded, and they actually made some of their own ammunition by taking out the heavy ball load and loading up about 15 buckshot. So when the Confederates attacked this position, when they got into with range, they really unloosed a lot of fury on them and caused a tremendous amount of devastation right out here in these fields. So yet another regiment that saw the usefulness of a smoothbore musket even during a rifle's age. Pretty neat. So this one has nothing to do with smoothbore muskets, but I had to film it because this monument, my kids get a huge kick out of this one. This comes around a steep hill and a sharp turn in the battlefield. This is a New Jersey sharpshooter regiment monument. I can't remember exactly which one. I'd have to get out and look. But it's rumored to be haunted, and it says he turns around and looks at you when you drive by. Now, we've never experienced that, but our kids always get a huge kick out of driving by him in the nighttime. Pretty cool monument, though. A few up-close shots of the gun. I don't love this camera for close-ups, and on the list is to get a new one so you guys have better footage, but you can see the basic rebuild of it again. Much slimmer proportions to match those originals. Made sure the lock panels pop. They're nice and sharp. A lot of wood thinned down off the forestock. Refinish with a much better looking period finish. And and I'm really happy with how this one turned out, and really looking forward to shooting some live rounds through it with y'all.